Welcome to another Torpid cast. Alright, game on Caldlaris for us today. And we got Zevargel fighting out the red team. Fighting out of the red corner is Zevargel, playing as a Chaos Lord. A very experienced player, a veteran of the Elite mod, perhaps even been around since the times of Chaos Rising themselves. Known, in particular, for his tremendous Bloodletter usage, though whether or not we shall see any Bloodletter usage, tremendous or otherwise in this game, remains to be seen, for he is up against Alotar of the blue team. A player who, quite frankly, this announcer has no idea who he is. Given he's the Warp Spider Exarch, he should be able to put up a decent fight. So yeah, Zevargel is definitely a very experienced player, though of course he's not been playing tremendously often recently, so he's going to be a little bit rusty, but I do not know who Alotar is. I don't know if that's a Smurf, I don't know if he is a fairly regular player. But this should be a decent little matchup. I like the Chaos Lord versus Warp Spider Exarch matchup. I think Eldar more broadly, they're very, very strong against Chaos, and I don't think Chaos have too much of a chance. But the Warp Spider himself is quite easy to bully in melee, so it really synergizes well with playing as either the Chaos Lord or the Chaos Sorcerer. With Chaos Sorcerer, of course, you just go Flame Sword and teleport. With the Chaos Lord, you'd likely see the Harness of Rage to make him more tanky, and the Combi Bolter. And then you get Raptors, and you just overwhelm him, because the Warp Spider doesn't have a lot of ways to support his Banshees against melee. That's his main weakness. He's fine against ranged compositions, he's really good against setup teams, since he can just teleport on top of them. But he is very dependent on those shurikens in order to defeat enemy melee. So we'll see how this matchup goes. Now, as far as Caldlaris Refinery is concerned, there's a lot of places like this where you can teleport over and the enemy has to go a long way around to catch you. In fact, something to note, you can actually teleport here, behind the green cover, such that you cannot be meleeed, because it's impassable. You can't retreat out either, you have to wait for your teleport to come back. Just something to bear in mind. Really bad positioning here from the Dire Avengers, quite sloppy from Alotar actually. Nice kill the weak on retreat, and that should be the end of them. Use the Heretic Worship and move your Chaos Lord and your CSM forward. Perfectly executed, really. That's the end of the Dire Avengers, that's a big blow. Nice pathing. Come on, shut the fuck up, Alotar. Get good, screw up. I'm sorry, but I can't deal with people complaining about the pathing when it's 100% predictable. The only time that I'll accept someone complaining about pathing is if there's some weird mechanic that has altered it. So, for example, your Banshees have aspect of fleetness. That might make them jump through certain bits of cover that intuitively make no sense. That's a good reason to complain about pathing. That was not a good reason there. All he had to do was move a little bit further back here, and then retreat, and he'd gone this way. So that was just poor play on his behalf. Now, as we can see, one Shuriken, not going to do great against the Chaos Lord. You're going to need two, because one, he can just walk in, especially if he's under the Corn Worship as well to boost his speed. And this is why the Dire Avenger loss is so painful, even in Tier 1, of course. He currently has no repair support for vehicles in Tier 2, which is also a concern. But he can't replace that Dire Avenger now, because if he does, he can't get a second Shuriken, which is going to be really bad, because then the Chaos Lord is just going to bully him. That said, I think the Havoc choice is a mistake. I don't really understand why he went for Havocs, because he's against a Warp Spider Exarch in the first place, who can just teleport on them. Maybe he just has a real fear of Banshees, but I don't think that's a good reason to be going Havocs in this instance. This Ranger is going to do really well now. I mean, it is the Havoc counter. And what this means is, by going Havocs, Zevargel lacks the Raptors. I think if he had the Raptors around now, he would be in an amazing position, probably able to get the Gem Bash off. Because whilst he has managed to get all of the map control, he hasn't got the Gem Bash. And that's crucial, because let's look at the economics here. That's a pretty nice lead, really, in terms of the power. We were talking about 25 extra power, though that is slowly getting normalized due to the slight difference in the power income, which is only due to the map control, really. They both have the same gens. But the thing is, if we look at the power expenditure on Zevargel's side, he's only spent the 25 on the Aspiring Champion for the Heretics and the 30 for the Chaos Havocs, whereas These Rangers are 40 because they've got the upgrade, 70 for the 30 with the Shuriken, and then an additional 20, so 90 power Alotar has spent. Yet in spite of that, he's ahead. And that's of course because the gens come down sooner if you're playing as the Eldar. But you have that little bit of vulnerability early on. So getting that Gem Bash off would have been really helpful, but Zevargel hasn't got that. Therefore, what do we see? Well, we see Alotar is going to tier 2 first. And shall we make predictions about what's going to happen here, guys? Because if any of you have been following a lot of my videos at this point with high-level Eldar gameplay, you can probably predict already what's going to happen. It might not, but I would vouch to say there is likely going to be a Falcon, which is going to push forward, force everything of Zevargel's off, and there is going to then be a Gem Bash on his farm, and Zevargel is going to find that he is suddenly at a really big disadvantage, in spite of his massive initial lead in the VPs. Because by the time that a Blood Crusher hits the field here for Zevargel, we're going to be seeing that Falcon, and the Blood Crusher of course can't do anything whatsoever to the Falcon. And we see a little bit of the drawback of this Havoc play. It does screen the Banshees, but they bleed a lot, and they just do nothing against Rangers. They're completely vulnerable. Chaos Lord has to be very careful about this engagement. Yeah, with the Banshees moving in, he's going to have to retreat at some point, and of course he cannot use Kill the Weak once he is retreating. So that's how you try and bait out the Chaos Lord. Often they'll stay in engagements with melee units for longer because they expect to be able to get the Kill the Weak off, which will heal them. But if you can make them retreat due to ranged fire and still have your melee units nearby but not right next to them to let them get the Kill the Weak, it can be really beneficial. Bit of a missed micro here from Zevargel. He should have jumped on that Shuriken team earlier, but fortunately for him, Alotar also missed microed and de-set up the Shuriken. And that's actually massive, because really this Gem Bash shouldn't have happened. That Shuriken should have forced off this Heretic squad, and then this Heretic squad would have been forced off before he came in here. But due to that missed micro now, Alotar's going to lose all of his power, which is kind of massive, because he's just dumped the vast majority of it into the Falcon, which we do see, and we see the Blood Crusher and Falcon coming up. So, as I say, we already know what's going to happen now. Do we see the Exarch? No. Not yet, but they're on the way. I'm a little bit surprised that Alotar managed to get as much map control as he actually did, if I'm completely honest. But of course, now the Falcon's out, Zevargel needs to get out of there straight away. This is probably going to be a wiped Heretic squad. I'm not sure where the Banshees are going. It's got to be a wipe squad. Come on. Yeah.
The enemy is claiming a victory. Generator operational.
And we see Plague Marines coming out, but Plague Marines alone aren't going to be able to kill the Falcon. Then again, I was going to say there's no Dire Avengers, but he has already replaced the Dire Avengers, so there is some repair support. Even with that said though, it's going to take 4 shots from those Plague Marines to kill the Falcon. You ain't going to have a lot of time to do that with Banshees and the Warp Spider around. I expect the Warp Spider to go for melee. It'd be very good in this instance, tying up the Havocs or the Plague Marines, and also just deterring the Blood Crusher as well. If he has 2 sources of heavy melee, both the X-Spark from the Banshees as well as the Power Blades on the Spider, plus the Falcon, should be quite easy really to deal with that Blood Crusher. Oh, we have a Bright Lance as well. Okay, so that's not even necessary at this point. In fact, this is probably going to be a dead Blood Crusher thanks to the Falcon. It wasn't even necessary. Okay, yep. And now we see how Zevargel has kind of fallen to pieces in spite of playing really well in Tier 1 and definitely outplaying Alotar. The whole time on this periphery, the Warp Spider has been doing what he does best, just capping the map. And the Plague Marines alone, they can't challenge that Falcon. They're too slow, they just don't have the DPS. They're a good support unit, but they're not really the hardest of AV. So he's going to need to get something on the Havocs. He's either going to need to go for the autocannon or the las cannon. If you're up against a really good player, trust me, even Plague Marines and autocannon will not be sufficient to kill a Falcon. It can, but I'm saying if you're up against the absolute best tier of player, it isn't going to be sufficient. Nice use of the Falcon there as a transport unit to drop off the Bright Lance to get a nice Gem Bash. Meanwhile, the Warp Spider continues to harass the side. A little bit of miss micro here, not capping the point. He's not replaced all of his gens as Alotar. That might be something he wants to get onto. And we see the Bloodletters, okay. Bloodletters are going to be alright. They're going to be okay. They're going to be able to contest the Banshees, but the main problem I have now then is there's not enough AV, so I expect to go for a las cannon, because you've got the Bloodletters, so now you can counter the Banshees and stop them just teleporting in, stop them charging in with a fleetness, and you can also stop the Warp Spider Exarch from teleporting in. The Autarch as well. Like, you can clearly see the gaming that's going on here. Like, Alotar knows that the Falcon is the crux of his composition at the moment, and all the AV that's on the field is pretty much ranged. In fact, it is all ranged. There's no Melter Raptors or anything like that. The Aspiring Champion Raptors, they're not there. So you've got the potential for a las cannon. Okay, we're seeing the auto cannon, but either way it works the same, right? You've got long-ranged AV coming from a setup team, so you can go for the Autarch. And expecting that, the Autarch, potentially a teleporting Warp Spider, and the Banshees running into melee, Zevargel goes to the Bloodletters, who are a really powerful counter-initiation melee unit. You know what? They probably could have killed that Havoc squad if the Autarch had jumped here and given them the speed buff. Do remember that the Autarch's jump isn't just for movement, but it also buffs nearby allies. It increases their speed and heals them a bit. I think it might even increase their damage, but I'm not certain about that. Fighting against the Autarch and the Warp Spider Exarch, it might actually be a decent idea to go for Corn Marines, just to help on the map control, because it's going to be really tough. Could do with a bit more support for the Plague Marines. They're not being microed towards the Falcon, so it is going to avoid any more hits there. A little bit of a misplay from Zevargel's behalf. The main problem I see for Zev, which is usually what Zevargel goes by, he is really lacking on the requisition department. I think that is really showcasing the power of decapping both of your opponent's requisition points. But just look at this discrepancy. About 300 extra for Alotar, and extra income on top of that. That's going to be the main problem here. But the good thing for Zev is his tier 3 is significantly stronger than Alotar's. Nice use of the Bloodletters there, using both the worship support as well as the phase shift ability to get sufficient damage into the Falcon without actually bleeding any models. Sufficient damage into the Banshees, rather. Oh, good kinetic pulse there, saves the Bright Lance. I'm not sure how relevant that's going to be, though, because the Bright Lance isn't really that important anymore. I don't think Zevargel will get any more vehicles. Typically, a Chaos player will rush the Blood Crusher because it is so cheap, and then he has forced the opponent to get anti-vehicle to kill it, and there isn't really too much purpose getting any more vehicles from that point. The Chaos Dreadnought is okay, but it really is very mediocre, so I don't really think you get it in an instance where you already know the opponent has vehicles. At this point, if I was both players, actually, I'd be just trying to get to tier 3. Alotar has to be a little bit more careful with a tier 3 tech because he is behind on VPs, so something like a Wraithlord could be a decent option. The Wraithlord performs fairly well versus everything except the Predator in the Chaos tier 3. Can handle the Terminators with relative ease. The Eldar Wraithlord having some of the most powerful specials in the game for any walker, and Chaos Terminators, well, they've got low melee skill. They're only 60 melee skill. The ranged Terminator variants are meant to be countered by melee walkers, so that's something to consider. Now, he already has the Bright Lance on the field, and he can potentially get Heavy Melania's Warp Spider and other options to help support him against vehicles. He could get the Shimmer Orb, which would help his Wraithlord close in on an enemy tank, and of course he could get the Bright Lance on the Wraithlord as well, which would help. Oh, really nice Plasma Grenade into Kinetic Pulse there. I like that. Alotar is clearly an experienced player pulling off little tricks like that, and the Banshees are in retreat path, ready to snipe that Aspiring Champion at the very least, if not the entire squad. The entire squad does go down, so that's the CSM dead. Okay, at this point, I mean, Alotar is massively floating, really needs to get something out. Whether he goes for the Wraithlord, whether he goes tier 3, it doesn't really matter, but he needs to purchase something. Chooses the tier 3 option, makes sense. At this point he has such an abundance of resources, it is worth going for it. I mean, Okay, he doesn't have enough power to be getting out any of those big purchases, nothing like a super unit. He has the requisition for a super unit, no power though. And he wouldn't really want an avatar, given that there's another set of bloodletters coming out. That power melee from the bloodletters, of course, would be fairly effective at killing down the super heavy infantry armor of the avatar, especially if his abilities are gonna miss. So, what do we want? Well, probably want a fire prism. Constantly be disrupting these Chaos Havocs so they can't shoot, as well as the Plague Marines. We actually see globally dropped Warp Spiders. Very interesting. And we also see Let the Galaxy Burn. Not sure about the Let the Galaxy Burn choice. Wow, look at the damage from that Bright Lance. Chipping away using the Scorch Beam. Nice dodge on the Kill the Weak. Could be a dead Chaos Lord. Looks like he is about durable enough now that he has the Armor of the Inferno, granting him an extra 200 HP. We see Crack Shot on Warp Spiders. I love this combo. But with the Bloodletters moving over to fight the Warp Spiders, well, the Banshees can run straight in and get those worshipping heretics. Blood Sacrifice is going to screen them out quite well, though. It's buying Zevargel time, but he is behind in tech. He needs to get to tier 3 quite urgently, I think. Get that tank out. That's going to help him a lot. I think the Warp Spider purchase here is going to really bite Alotar on the arse in the long term. They do bleed a lot. Where did they just teleport? Oh, they teleported back to try and kill the Autarch. I think that was a bit excessive, teleporting both of them back. I guess with the worship they do get decent energy regen, so it's not too much of a big deal, but still. Now the Falcon did die, and that was really fortunate for Zevargel. If he had to fight the Falcon in tier 3 with that energy shield, it would be an absolute nightmare. Doing a really good job stalling out in the center with these Bloodletters just to prevent the cap. However, the map control is definitely in Alotar's hands, as well as the tech lead as well. Really, what Alotar's really fucking up with here is not replacing his gens. I'm not sure why he's failed to replace his gens. I guess it's just micro oversight, but this is slowing down the timing on any sort of tier 3 unit quite tremendously. Nice little Let the Galaxy Burn there. I feel like at this point he should have actually just got a Combi Bolter ages ago. I mean, how much power has Zevargel got? He's got over 200. He could at this point even get one of his anti-melee wargears as well. Do pretty well. It might be a dead Chaos Lord, probably wants Doom Blast. A bit late on the Doom Blast, Chaos Lord does go down. Banshees need to be careful. If the Heretics worship here and the Bloodletters are moving in with more speed, could be quite dangerous, but I guess the worship was really rather risky. I was going to say it's not really the time to worship with the Warp Spiders moving in and the Autarch, but yeah, he goes for it and he pays for it with his Heretics' lives. I think the micro is becoming quite overwhelming for both the players at this point. That Scorch Beam Bright Lance is just such a pain, constantly tickling away at the Bloodletters. Warp Spiders is certainly a good counter to melee units, doing high levels of piercing DPS. If the melee unit is light infantry, they're going to die pretty fast, the Warp Spiders, and then of course they just teleport out as soon as the melee gets close. I imagine that's why he did get the Warp Spiders, seeing that there were double Bloodletters on the field. But he still hasn't replaced his power. He's completely forgot. About time, Alotar. Plague Marines are a little bit redundant now, mostly just uses the capping unit, which is not something they're great at, given how slow they are moving from point to point. They also don't have amazing anti-infantry DPS, so they're not going to do very well against the Warp Spider himself either.
Support structure complete.
So because he forgot to replace his power, Alotar is now only just getting out his first tier 3 unit, and it's the rather pitiful D cannon. It will be useful. It's going to be a bit risky with potential Bloodlust as well as Malignant Blindness. The double Bloodletters might find it quite easy to wipe it, but we shall have to see. They've not managed to wipe the Bright Lance yet, so perhaps not. He's forgot to drop his gens as well. This is really, really hurting Alotar at this point. He could have so many different units out. He could probably have a Fire Prism and be well on his way to getting the Seer Council as well at this point. If he had just dropped those gens a little bit earlier. We actually see a Chaos Dreadnought from Zev. I guess he really doesn't expect that his opponent is in tier 3. Fire Prism could be an absolute pain for him to deal with, though I guess with potential Malignant Blindness and Corn Worship, it is possible to kill the Fire Prism using just your Dreadnought and your Plague Marines and your Havocs. Really not sure about that use of the Singularity. Not only has he now revealed that he has a D-Cannon, he's wasted the Singularity hitting nothing just to try and delay a decap. Doesn't really achieve too much. Really, you want to be using the Singularity on the Heretics. Whilst they lack their Aspiring Champion, I'm pretty sure it will actually just give the squad outright. But even if it doesn't, it's going to drop them down to extremely low HP, even with the Aspiring Champion, which makes them very easy to wipe. And then that makes the Bloodletters themselves a lot easier to deal with. That's the key thing with the Bloodletters. While they're under worship, you don't want to fight the Bloodletters, you want to just shoot the Heretics. They're vulnerable, they've got to stop worshipping before they can retreat. 10 HP per second as well as boosted energy regen for these guys whilst they're under worship. They're not the thing that you want to be shooting at. I was going to say, what the hell's going on there? Was that a Skyleap? Which is not moving. I guess that's some sort of graphical bug with a replay system. So the Autark Skyleaps out and then does a barrage in here which stuns one Havoc, and then the Banshees move in. That was a poorly executed attack, I shall say. Very nice like the Galaxy Burn is knocking over every single Banshee model and doing decent damage over time to them as well. And we've got a Mark of Corn Dreadnought. Okay, cool. Moving forward, going to charge straight into that Bright Lance. Oh, activating the Blood Rage. Probably going to snipe this Banshee Exarch. Yep, she goes down. And then the Bloodletters can jump on the Bright Lance, and we're in happy times for Chaos. Because Alotar has still not replaced his gens. What is he doing? Oh, the Banshees need to be careful. They're going to die. Dead Banshees. Oh dear. Oh dear. He's falling to pieces. Now these Bloodletters have to be very careful themselves. They might get minced at this point. The Autark needs to get over there and give those Bloodletters a nice smack. Oh, but they phase out. Are there any Heretics? Nope. I mean, maybe the Autark can finish him off. There's only one more model. I don't know how much she's going to do per swing. Oh, she should definitely do 63. Come on, Autark. You've got this. Come on, Autark. Oh, wow. She didn't. She couldn't do it. She can't kill this one either. Does she have Fleet of Foot yet? I don't know. We'll find out soon, I guess. No aspect of the Warp Spider upgrade here for the Warp Spider squad, only just coming in now. So there's not been any Haywire grenades for the Dreadnought. That would have helped a lot. The Dreadnought on the whole mounted bolter and the Dreadnought actually managing to snipe down a Warp Spider model. Yeah, this is pretty rough. Alotar needs to hurry the hell up and get his gens dropped down so he can get a Fire Prism and a Seer Council. Poor execution here, really. Bright Lance setting up just too close. Can only get one shot off before the Dreadnought gets into melee range. Let's have a look at the resources. Over 1,000 requisition for Alotar. This has been the single greatest mistake he has probably made in years. He has not replaced his gens for what must be at least 10 minutes now, and he's got over 1,000 requisition. Really playing with fire here with the Warp Spiders. Are they going to go down as well now? They do. The Dreadnought pays for it with his own life, but it's probably fine at this point. That said, Zev is still not in tier 3. Still messing around reinforcing Bloodletters, which is really not ideal. The army of 8 Bloodletters is closing in now on a whole bunch of ranged units, which is going to be pretty difficult for Alotar to deal with. And we even see Blood Sacrifice for another 4. 12 Bloodletters running his way. He needs to get out of there real quick. Not even the Warp Spiders is going to make the Bloodletters a lot harder to kill. I think he probably should be going for a Seer Council. At last, we can cheer because he has replaced his generators. What did he lose? He just lost the D-Cannon? Okay. He lost the D-Cannon to Blood Sacrifice Bloodletters. That's poor. He's getting overwhelmed by macro here as he's trying to micro the Autark down this side to go for the VPs. I didn't actually realise, but at this point Alotar has actually fallen under 100 VPs. But Zev has actually lost a shitload of VPs over this period as well, down to 130 VPs. So at this point they're not really concerned about getting too many more economic advantages. Really it's just coming down to the VPs. So we see more Warp Spiders drop down over this side. They're going to cap the VPs in the middle. Probably going to see a little bit of camping of the VPs from the Chaos Lord as well as the Havocs. Double Bloodletters teleporting into the center. Going to have a chat with those Warp Spiders, but of course they can just teleport away. Interesting upgrade choices from the Warp Spider here, going for the Entangling Web. I mean, when is it not useful to immobilize an enemy squad as well as get a weapon DPS buff? Might see a wipe on these heretics. They're not teleporting. Where'd they teleport? Right, they went up this side. Probably would have been worth teleporting here to go for the wipe. And he did manage to get some Seer Council out. Okay. But Zev's going to stick with his plan. He's staying in tier 2. Now the Seer Council will definitely handle the Bloodletters one-on-one. However, with nice fire support from the Havocs and potentially a Dreadnought as well as the Bloodletters being under worship, they should be okay at handling the Seer Council. They just don't want to fight them one-on-one. That's the main thing. Bit of a shame really that he lost the D-Cannon. I didn't really see the D-Cannon do too much, but it would have been very helpful for the D-Cannon to singularity the Heretics over and over again in all the big fights. Gotta love the disruption from the Seer Council. Not a lot of VPs left for Alotar. Probably does have the superior army at this point. I'd like to see some good usage of the abilities that the Warp Spider now has in the anti-grav grenade as well as the entangle. I think that's going to dictate how the rest of this game goes, really.
Caution has its place as well.
He needs to get these Seer Council back to heal and reinforce, though. He's going to need them durable if he wants to win the fight against all these Bloodletters. Probably going to see another Khorne Dreadnought, I expect. Yeah, we do. Zev just needs to run him down and force off all of his army at once and then secure a 2-cap on these 2 points. And he's just going to win on the VPs. So that's probably what he's thinking here. He's just going to go all in with the melee. Make him retreat. He might not be able to beat him economically if fights just keep reoccurring, but he doesn't need to because he can just win on the VPs. We see a Falcon, okay, yeah, that's probably a decent choice actually. I always forget to get the Falcon as an option in tier 3 as the Eldar. Of course it is far stronger than it is in tier 2 due to the shield that it gets. Okay, so we see the Autark dropping in once more. He's doing a good amount of disruption and she's going to leap on the Havoc, which forces him off. But the Bloodletters have got the snipe on the Rangers, probably going to wipe out the Guardian Weapons team as well, and the Heretics now are in a pretty great spot because the Khorne Dread is tying up the Dire Avengers and the Chaos Lord is tying up the Warp Spiders, so nothing can kill the Heretics. And with the Heretics on the field, worshipping double Bloodletters, the Seer Council don't really want to stick in that fight. Meanwhile, the Warp Spider Exarchus took the opportunity to try and get a snipe on the natural VP, but Bloodletters are privy to it, and they snipe him in return. I think at this point, Alotar is probably just going to lose the VP game because the Chaos Lord is going for the natural. Plague Marines have basically just been a capping unit this game, but nonetheless, have managed to get 3.5. Level 3.5. That's quite impressive. I'm not sure how they've got that. I guess a lot of models have died at this point. What are the Bloodletters on? 3.5 and nearly 3. Okay, well the Falcon takes a considerable amount of damage actually, but the Seer Council will tie it up eventually. What's capturing that? Oh, the Dire Avengers didn't actually get forced off. I assume they ran around this side and managed to actually sneak in and get the decap. Very good. Oh, bit of an Allahu Akbar there. I mean, it delays the cap. I guess the Dire Avengers weren't really getting out at this point. It is a VP game for everyone, really. Anti-grav nade. I was going to say, does that actually stop the cap? It appears it doesn't, so That wasn't particularly effective. Tosses the bloodletters around a bit, but you know, they're demons. They don't care about being tossed through the air a little bit. They're alright. A little bit concerned about this sick outs of this one. Have we got the shield yet? Oh, the shield's only just coming in now. Come on, Alotar, you've got to pick up your micro, man. Only having about half HP, it's going to be rough for these guys. Corn Dreadnought, double bloodletters. I'd like to see Bloodlust used in this next engagement. Either that or Malignant Blindness, or shit, both. He could afford both. No, he can't. He can only afford one. I know Zevargel likes his blood sacrifice. There we go. Got some slow motion here. So the bloodletters moving in promptly force off the Guardian Weapon team, which was under crack shot. Therefore, there's nothing really to stop the Corn Dreadnought except from the Falcon, who can tickle it. He recognises that the threat that he has to get rid of is the Heretics, so the worship spot for the bloodletters is tucked away. So the Warp Spider squad and the Exarch move in to force off the Heretics. They are forced off, but not before a blood sacrifice goes down. Meanwhile, the Seer Council are being driven off, screened is the word I was trying to find, screened by the Corn Dread, so they can't actually tie up the Plague Marines, who in turn are moving forward and forcing the Falcon to run away. Now there's lots of Bloodletters on the field and the Chaos Lord who are just going for the caps, because ultimately this is a VP game. So the Falcon has been screened by the Plague Marines, the Corn Dreadnought is screening the Seer Council, who have used their superior speed to try and get the decap on the natural, but it doesn't look like there's going to be enough time. In fact, at this point he can't win. It's impossible. He needs something to be decapping this, and he needs to have caught this. If it gets to 7 points and you're losing a 2-1, you lose the game. So Alotar has lost this one. With the tech advantage that he got, he really did deserve the win. But I guess, well, I guess the missed micros that he did deserved him the loss. This play here with the generators, forgetting to rebuild his gens for 10 minutes after going tier 3, can't really do that. If you're going to make the call to go tier 3, you need to get out tier 3 units. And all of his power, it was just dropped on upgrades, the Falcon, I guess getting the Entangling Web and the Anti-Grav Nade, and it just bit him in the ass. That was pretty much the only real reason he lost. There were a few micro errors on both players' behalfs, but mostly just came down to that. Really nice usage of the Bloodletters though from Zevargel. As I mentioned at the start of the game, he is quite renowned for his Bloodletter usage. He really loves that unit. Constant pressure with the blood sacrifices, and nice to see some Corn Dreadnoughts as well. It did alright, it didn't do amazing. If a Fire Prism came out earlier, or even just the shielded Falcon, I think the Corn Dreadnoughts would have been a lot less effective. Also, just choosing so long to get the aspects of the Warp Spider. Have a look at that though. It not only gives you the Haywire Grenade, but it buffs the Exarch for the squad quite considerably. He goes from doing practically insignificant melee DPS to 40 power melee, which is huge, and he also gets about a 50% DPS increase on his actual gun as well. So it's a really good generalist upgrade, since you're always going to have the Exarch for that squad, because you need him to have sufficient amounts of energy. So what can be learnt from this replay? Well, look, don't go tier 3 and then forget about your gens. That's the long and short of that one. Bloodletters are scary. If you're up against multiple Bloodletters and your opponent knows how to use Worship, you need to find a way to kill the Heretics. And hey, the Warp Spiders did a good job. But if you're getting Warp Spiders, don't forget about your aspect of the Warp Spider upgrade. It's only 15 power. Look, I know you went tier 3 and you need your power to build tanks and stuff. But come on, 15 power? You want to get this upgrade. I think that's pretty much it, really. Maybe the Power Blades would have been a bit more effective. I didn't actually see him using the Entangling Web too much. I don't think I even seen it once. Also, the Anti-Grav Grenades weren't that great. I think, honestly, instead of going tier 3, Alotar would have been in a better spot if he went for a Wraith Lord in tier 2. After the Falcon died. There wasn't too much anti-vehicle on the field, and he had his Autarch, his Banshees, and he then could have gone for the melee Warp Spider, and then he could have supported it with the Shimmer Orb to protect it from the ranged AV. You know, you just throw your Shimmer Orb down, and so long as your Wraithlord is inside it, they're not going to take damage from any ranged AV, so you can really use that to protect your Wraithlord and support it. Food for thought either way. This game ends up going to Zevargel, proving once again the might of his Chaos Lord and his Bloodletter play. Hope you guys found that enjoyable. That is all from me today, so have a good night. Peace, and Torpid out.